probably coming to terms with having a chronic illness and realizing that it wasn't my fault. That was the hardest.
I think it would have been the relationship with my college boyfriend. Wasn't the greatest relationship. We dated for about 3 or 4 years. It was a bit of an abusive relationship, and I think that that was something that was hard to overcome. I never thought I would be one of those women that would, stay in a toxic environment and put up with the things that I put up with. I always thought that I would be one of those women that would, leave the man right away and walk out of that situation and, say that I walked out shining. But I stuck around for a while. Don't know why, but I did. I guess I thought I could change him, but that would be it. That would have to be it. It was the most challenging thing that I did by deciding to walk away, and I'm so glad I did.
I would say learning to be alone again. Being married, I feel like I was part of a union, and I always had that backup, and I saw a future. And now getting a divorce, I feel like I need to learn how to enjoy my own company again and to learn to be alone.
The most difficult thing I've had to overcome, and I'm still overcoming, is my personal requirement for perfection. I tend to not want to. I think it's called perfection paralysis or something, but I tend to not want to do things until I'm ready. If I don't know everything about a subject, I don't want to go into it, and it's really it's very frustrating to try to do new things, and to I hate being wrong. So that's where it all comes from. I hate being wrong. So trying to allow myself to make mistakes and to be unsure, and to kind of dive in even in a place of unsurety is one thing that I'm still trying to overcome.
Unfortunately and selfishly, just relationships ending, girlfriends. The only person I've lost that was close to me was my dog. Other than that, it's just been relationships that have been a pain in the ass to overcome.
Moving to New York City, actually, I have a different one. I'd actually say the most difficult thing was having the courage to come out. That was something that I had always feared, and I didn't think that people would understand or accept me for who I was. But then I came to the realization that I was always the same person. So it has been liberating, and it has allowed me to really live an authentic life, one that I feel many would aspire to someday live, but don't necessarily have the opportunity to do so.
My brother's death, when I was 22 and my brother was 26, we were hanging out one night and crashed at a friend's house, and the next morning I woke up and I didn't hear him snoring, and I was like, I kind of already knew what was going on, but I went into the other room and I found him dead. And from that moment, my life changed, and it's been consistently dealing with like my post-traumatic stress from it, and grieving and having maybe not allowed myself to grieve, but also dealing with my family and dealing with their attitudes towards it and their attitudes towards me being the one who found him and the last one that saw him alive, and like there being questionable behavior because he died so young. If we were like up to we're doing drugs or anything, just having to deal with like grieving, accusations, and a feeling of guilt, and just the trauma of it.
I would say personally, things I've been working on overcoming are it's not really a keeping up with the Joneses thing, but like a need to keep up appearances. And not just like physically, but like a need to please other people, and learning to just like be okay with what I want. I don't have a great story for that, but it's just, and I haven't even overcome it. Like I'm still working on that, but that's a big one.
Myself. I feel fortunate that I haven't had worse things. I've always had a home and clothes and food and friends. I'm the only thing that stands in my way.
I don't know that I've overcome it yet. I kind of think that the career and life that I want so badly is going to be hugely difficult to attain. And I don't have the resources to make it happen. I just have to keep kind of like trudging along. But I'm working on it. I'm in the middle of overcoming it.
Well, I've kind of given it away already, but depression. When I was a freshman in college is the first time that I started to deal with it. And yeah, I guess, so it was more kind of the most difficult thing I had to overcome was that period of time in general, which would require a lot of explanation. But the short version is that I went away to college and was, I'd always taken medication before that, like for anxiety and ADD. And I was put on this new medication and it just kind of messed everything up. And people thought I was bipolar for a while, and like I was on like a revolving door of different medications trying to fix myself, and lots of different doctors, and went into a slump where I took a semester off to try and get better, and it like going through that delayed my college process. Like I took a year off, and then I went to a different college and then a different college, and so having this period of time, I guess, where everything that I was kind of just came crashing down. Like I'd been a relatively perfect little high schooler. I did my homework, I got good grades, I got into a good college, I was attractive. Like here I was not getting good grades, I was failing things, I had gained a bunch of weight, like everything that I defined myself as changed. And I didn't know why for a long time, and I didn't really understand depression. It's hard to know how much of it is actually that and how much of it's just you. It changed how everyone in my life saw me. But I did overcome it, and ultimately I think it's for the better. I learned a lot, and being in school for 7 years, I learned a lot as well, and I'm happy with where my life is now, so yeah.
I would say I'm still overcoming it now, and it doesn't happen as often now, but specifically back in my school days, because I am not, I'm actually not even, I guess I wouldn't even classify myself as an African American. I am a Belizean American. So both of my parents are from Belize. So it's like, it's one of those things where I'm not a typical black guy, so to speak. I'm educated. I speak as such. And, you know, my background and my experiences and my environment that I was raised in, I wasn't exposed to what you stereotypically call a black person, or what they were exposed to. So, you know, my dad being a Mennonite pastor, I was in the Mennonite church. So that's a predominantly, so to speak, white culture. So it's one of those things where that's what I know. That's what I grew up with. I went to a school with, you know, a good majority of white people, and you know, I got teased a lot in saying that I was an Oreo. I was just a black guy trapped in a white guy's body, or a white guy trapped in a black guy's body. And that was just, you know, initially I was laughing it off, and I was, you know, just like, oh, okay, that's funny, guys, like, blah, blah, blah. But it got to the point where it was really an issue for me, because I don't necessarily identify myself with African Americans or with, you know, Caucasians or white people. I am Josh. Like that's who I identify myself with. And so when people try and pigeonhole me or tell me that I look, or I'm doing something a certain way, or I'm not doing something a certain way based upon media and based on, you know, the different stereotypes of these different cultures, it makes me feel some type of way. And so that was something that kind of permeated throughout my college years as well. And then even after graduation, I put a big blast on Facebook out and was like, listen, if you have a question about my culture, if you have a question about my sexuality, if you have a question about me in general, you can ask me. Here's my number. There it is. I just don't feel the need for people to be talking about, oh, this and that and the other thing, and not asking the person they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like it's about me, so ask me. I'm the one that you have your quote unquote issues with, so say what you need to say to me. So I would say getting over the whole being white or not being black, I think that was a big thing for me to get over.
It might sound silly to some people, but the death of my first dog, that hit me hard, real hard. That was when was that? That was a few years ago. Yeah. He was there for me since I was in 4th grade. So he was my best friend in the animal realm, but he was also family. And he lived a long time, and he lived a really healthy life until the end. He ended up having cancer and couldn't walk on his own for a while. So I think what was really hard is watching him get to the point where he couldn't take care of himself anymore. I think that was scary, because not only did I know that he was going to die soon, that kind of made me think about my own life and how one day I'll get to that point where I won't be able to take care of myself and someone will have to take care of me like I'm taking care of him. And then so one day, one of my friends, she was an exchange student from Spain, she came to sleep over. And then the next day, I was going to sleep over her house because it was right before she was going to go back to Spain. So we wanted to see each other as much as possible. And I saw him, and he was breathing really, really heavily. And I said bye to him, gave him a kiss, and then left. Then later that night, while we were at a restaurant for my friend, I get a phone call from my dad saying, "Oh, where are you?" And I had told him the morning of that I was sleeping over my friend's house. And he said, "Oh, well, come home." I said, "No, why would I come home? I can't. I already promised her. I don't want her going home by herself or anything like that." And he was like, okay, bye. So that day, I went to sleep over my friend's house. The next day I came home, my brother picked me up. I was really happy because I had a great time. I go home, I see my mom on the couch, I see my dad walk by in the hallway. And just like any other day, I started making a frozen pizza. This is before I knew how to cook. And my brother comes up to me and looks at me funny and says, "Did they tell you?" And fuck, man, like, sorry for cursing, but in that moment, I lost it. He told me that Maxie died, and I was so angry, just so angry. So I just assumed he was laying down somewhere and I could make my food real quick and then I would see him. But I was so angry that my family didn't tell me. That when my dad called me, and obviously that night he died, he couldn't say, "Maxie died, come home," so you could say bye. And I thought it was so fucked up. So messed up that they couldn't tell me that. And after that, I basically left my house for a week and didn't talk to anyone. So I was just so angry. I stayed with my best friend, my boyfriend at the time. Anyone who would possibly let me sleep over, I stayed there because I didn't want to go home to that empty house where no one talked to each other and no one had the guts to tell me that one of my best friends died. Then for like a year, I ended up just always being angry at them, and then I would see dogs in the street and I'd get flashbacks, and I was just so messed up. Then after a while, obviously, that hate goes away. You know they didn't do anything wrong. The sadness goes away. It's still there always, but you learn to cope with it. And then finally, I was at a place where I was okay. And I could talk about it and not be in tears. Then I went away to Russia for like 3 weeks. And we had my sister's dog at home who stayed with us after Maxie died because it was the only way my mom could get through the death. And 2 days before I came back, I found out he died too. He got hit by a car. And again, Dad didn't want to tell me. And again, I was so angry. So I guess those 2 deaths are the thing that I had to overcome. But what affected me the most was the lack of communication, the lack of honesty. Tell me and I would have coped with it, but you're trying to hide it from me. Still hard. But you get better. You get better at dealing with hard things when you get older. One day it'll be them, you know? So I learned to be happy that at least they're still here. At least my sister's still here. At least my brother is still here. At least my niece is still here. All of my friends are still here. I just lost one thing now. But the rest of them are here. So it's just a really good lesson for me.